The 10 coaches on the hot seat, Aaron Glenn, obviously, and, Brian Schottenheimer, Todd Bowles, Zach Taylor, like some are predictable. They have Matt LaFleur at number 9. Second most wins in the history of the NFL for a coach in his first 7 years. According to FoxSports.com, they got Matt LaFleur on the list. Okay, I don't agree with that at all. The interesting one, though, is Nick Sirianni, Eagles coach at 2. Because I believe the market is the truth. When Cleveland fired Kevin Stefanski, he interviewed with the top 5 jobs within a week. I said when they fired him, he's going to land the first or second best job on the market. Now, Buffalo didn't look like it had any intention of hiring anybody but Joe Brady, so that one was kind of out. And Baltimore really leaning heavily into Jesse Minter. But I don't, the market is the truth. Kevin Stefanski interviewed immediately for all the top jobs. What's interesting with Sirianni is I don't think he get another job. Not quickly. So fans are completely swayed by winning. But there's a lot of different ways to win. Sometimes a coach inherits a mess, Bill Parcells' career, and turns around quickly. And sometimes a coach inherits a really good roster, Nick Sirianni. He inherited a great O-line and a great owner and a great GM and great team momentum. I mean, they got rid of a coach who won a Super Bowl. So you got to be careful. Results-based analysis, where you base everything on the results, is flawed. That's what Miami did. And they paid $54 million a year for Tua. Well, he made a Pro Bowl. I mean, he made the playoffs. He had a great offensive coach. When he was making the playoffs, he had a running back that led the NFL in touchdowns. He had a track team on the sidelines at wide receiver, and the Jets and the Patriots were a mess in rebuilding. Okay? You can't just be swayed by results. That's like judging a real estate broker only when the interest rates are 3 to 3.5%. Anybody can sell a home with that. If you have a real estate broker and the interest rates are 7.5%, I have a friend who's a real estate broker down in Florida. Everybody tells me, man, Florida, that is a buyer's market, man. The sellers, they can't sell anything. That he's never had better years. He's really
okay. You know what's so hilarious about something like this? First off, this list is meaningless to me because some of the names out there are pretty kind of hilarious. I mean, first off, Shane Steichen's on there. Are you kidding me? Shane Stein has been doing magic with that team. It's not his fault with AR and all of that chaos, but he was able to do with Daniel Jones. Are you kidding me? Shane, there's a lot of teams that are praying a lot. Eagles fans are praying that Shane Stein gets fired by the Indianapolis Colts. Listen, Kevin O'Connell, some of the issues, was he responsible for moving on from Sam Darnold? That's more of like a management thing rather than like an actual coaching thing. So it's just like if you want to take away some of the GM powers that maybe a Kevin Unnell has, sure. But in terms of like him being on the hot seat is like not being a good enough coach, quite frankly, is absurd. Even like a Dave Canales, like what he's been able to do in Carolina, honestly deserves a tremendous amount of credit. And heck, even Brian Schottenheimer with the Dallas Cowboys I was impressed with what he was able to do. Everybody was making fun of that hire as if it was going to be, he was going to be Freddie Kitchens essentially. And like, quite frankly, like he wasn't the problem, like laughter. He was not the problem of what went wrong with that team. The defense was, and he had, he doesn't have that power. We know he has no power. He has the power over the offense, and the offense was great. Dak Prescott was playing great. CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, the run game was great. So, the list itself is kind of silly to me. But here's the thing: I am not some huge Nick Sirianni fan. I am not some big eye defender. There are plenty of these other coaches that I would say you'd rather have over Nick Sirianni. I want the coach to be able to be the one who was the true scheme I want a coach who is the perceived genius, the Mike McDonald, the Shanahan, the McVay, the Andys. Like, that is what I personally want. That's what I would want if I'm running a team. That's what I would want if I'm a player, if I'm, a fan of the team, whatever it may be. That is who I am. I always talk about, as a player, it's like I want a coach who has the solutions to the problem. And I don't think that necessarily Sirianni has that, and you're always beholden to your coordinator. Think about how the Eagles were like, man, the Eagles need to hire someone to fix this offense, right? They need maybe Mike McDaniel, maybe, whoever, whatever the names that were being thrown around. And it's like, you want to be able to say, my coach can do that. My coach can solve that problem. That's what you want, obviously. And so that is always my problem with Nick Sirianni. But here's the thing. This is what's really absurd and downright ridiculous. This is where I draw the line. Because first off, Sirianni took over a team that was 4-1. So he did not inherit some great team. First off, you think Jalen Hurts is not that great of a quarterback. So he inherited essentially a second round, not so good quarterback. It's like, okay, there you go. That alone now is just kind of disrupting the point. And so I did have to rebuild that culture. And yes, they built an awesome team and all of that. But just like how a quarterback can't accidentally, or a team as a whole can't accidentally get to a Super Bowl. And that's what everyone kept saying about the Patriots. They were like, oh, the Patriots, listen, you might not think they're as good, but you can't accidentally get to a Super Bowl. And it's true. And the Eagles got to 2 Super Bowls and had 2 unbelievable performances and beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, that's not accidental. That's not accidental. Sirianni is a part of that, whether you like it or not. And we can talk about these other brilliant coaches like the McVay that Colin, elevates to the highest level and be like, sometimes you win because of team, sometimes because of this. And it's like Sean McVay needed a stacked roster to win his Super Bowl with a special all-time great quarterback in Matthew Stafford. People have, if Stafford won the Super Bowl this year, they were prepared to say that he's better than Aaron Rodgers and he's like a top 5 quarterback of all time, which my whole argument was, if you think he's that great, whether he wins the Super Bowl or not is irrelevant. He either has the talent and is that great or not. Sean McVay has gotten to 1 Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford. He won 1 Super Bowl and he had a stacked roster both offensively and defensively. Okay, Shanahan has gotten to 2 Super Bowls both times. His offense, the super genius that he is, could not really compete with the Kansas City Chiefs. He had a stacked roster. Let's not pretend like Debo's not there and KD's not there. Christian McCaffrey is not like, let's not pretend that those things don't exist. He not a single game or even a single drive was anything close to how great the Philadelphia Eagles did in either of those Super Bowls. I mean, everybody was just oozing, going nuts. Rabel, he's the greatest coach ever. Oh my God, could you imagine having a coach as amazing as Rabel? He's just so great. I just love him. How does team look in the Super Bowl? How'd that offense look? You could say, well, the defense was pretty good. We forced all those field goals. Like, you couldn't stop the run game. And that was the difference between winning and losing at that point. You could not stop the run game. And also the offense. Josh McDaniels. Super genius Josh McDaniels. One of the best offensive minds in the NFL. He would be a head coach, but he's just not a good head coach, but he's an amazing offensive mind. How'd that offense look? Not so good. Okay. Sean McDermott. He'll get hired right away. He's a great coach, a great defensive mind. 1, he's not hired right now. And 2, how does defenses perform in the playoffs? How many Super Bowls has Josh out in the Buffalo Bills won? Harbaugh. Harbaugh is amazing. He's an amazing coach. The Giants. They got a real winner there. What the heck has he done for the last 12 plus years, and the Ravens have had an awesome roster. Miss me with the nonsense, man. But you got Lamar Jackson. What are we talking about? And like 12 Pro Bowlers a year. What are we talking about? Can't beat the Buffalo Bills or the Kansas City Chiefs. The teams that the Eagles beat in the Super Bowl and the playoffs and big games. I'm just saying, man. Ben Johnson with a better offensive line than the Eagles had last year with a ruthless run game, and a quarterback, Caleb Williams, who's better than Jalen Hurts, right? He's better than Jalen Hurts. He can do, oh my God. You see all the things that he can do is just magical with a defense that actually played better against Los Angeles Rams than the Eagles defense did against the Rams in the snowstorm. They couldn't win. Ben Johnson and his genius and Ben and Caleb Williams and the superstar that he is. They couldn't get past the Rams. The Eagles did. The Eagles did. Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles got to his Super Bowl in Jalen's second year as a starter. This was Caleb Williams' second year as a starter. The genius of Sean Payton. Yes, he had Jared Stum. Absolutely. He did a bad job in that game. That's just a fact. Against the New England Patriots. That's just a fact. I mean, heck, we're praising Shanahan right now, and he deserves a ton of praise for what he did this year with all the injuries. Do we forget that last year they had a ton of injuries and that team was not good? Is it because things aren't always 100% constant and linear, and the same that just because you do something one year automatically means that you can do it every year? Okay. Matt LaFleur Collins said that Jordan Love is a superstar, that he is a game changer. What has Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers done? What have they done? What was the super genius play calling and execution that the Packers did against the Philadelphia Eagles that changed that game? I don't recall. So in a lot of ways, Sirianni wins how all of these teams win, by having an awesome roster and quarterbacks that can get the job done when you need them to get the job done. Now, do some coaches elevate the roster more? So, sure. I think Andy Reid elevates it more. I think a Mike McDonald with the defense elevates it more. Let's not pretend like we have all these other coaches out here just building something out of nothing and fighting their way through it, and they're just out there just winning year after year after year. I think Shane Sion's great. What does he need? Better team, better quarterback, better O-line, better receivers, better defense. I think he can win a Super Bowl with that, you know? Okay. Yeah. So good. Sirianni, Todd BS out there cooking? Yeah. When he's got like Tom Brady and whatnot out there, it's like, okay, cool. Zach Taylor, you out there cooking? Yeah. When your whole team's healthy and Joe Burrow's healthy, and it's like, all right, yeah, cool. Okay, got it. Dave Cannell looks like a pretty good coach when his quarterback's making some pretty big plays. He almost beat the Los Angeles Rams. Should have beaten the Los Angeles Rams. Puka Nua saved it, but I guess that was Sean McVay. Maybe he coaches Puka to say, hey, I want you to always punch that ball out on an interception. If you don't, I'm benching it. Maybe he has that conversation with him. I don't know. But Kevin Unnell, the quarterback whisperer, said, bye, Sam Darnold. Bye. I want Iguodala. I mean, J.J. McCarthy, we got to stop pretending like the Rams themselves. I love using the Rams as an example because we have these like distorted views of what various teams have done and how they've won. And it's like, in order for the Rams to win this Super Bowl, they had to get rid of Jared Goff, the #1 overall pick, who then also continued to ball with the Detroit Lions. Let's be serious about it. Had to get Matthew Stafford, the quarterback who did nothing in Detroit, could not win a playoff game, made the playoffs only 3 times in like 12 years or whatever, and that still wasn't good enough. They had an elite defense. They had Aaron Donald. They needed Von Miller. They had Cooper Kupp Triple Crown winner. They needed OBJ. They still needed more. But then they lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, who, according to Colin, they would have actually won the Super Bowl if it wasn't for the 5th round left tackle that Jalen Carter got to take advantage of. And it's like, okay, sure, whatever. The Rams would have won too if Jalen Hurts didn't run for, have a 44-yard touchdown. They would have won if Saquon Barkley didn't run for a 60-yard touchdown. The Rams would have won if the Eagles didn't score more points than them. No. Why can't it be guff? The lower score wins. Why? Why must you football gods torture us? I just think it's so bizarre. The reason why I harp on these types of takes because they really are very unique around the Philadelphia Eagles, which is why, again, I'm not a big Sirianni fan. I'm not. I never was. And I've even told you guys this before. Like, I became more interested in Jalen Hurts when I realized all the conversations around him, when I've seen what he's been able to accomplish and I've seen the conversations all around it. I'm just like, and as JCT put it, it's like I'm a defender. That's what I love to do. I love to defend. And it's like, that's why I'm not out here trying to argue that Nick Ferrani is actually an elite coach. He's actually great. He's unbelievable. Blah, blah. But it's like, I draw the line where it's like, we're not going to give him any credit for the successes that they've had, or we're going to now talk about some of these other coaches. Like, they're out there just winning without a great team and a great roster and a great GM and a great blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, doesn't happen. Name the teams where it happens. And so we're trying to make it like it's unique to Philadelphia, Nick Sirianni, and that's not the case. That's what they do with Jalen Hurts, and it's not the case. It's not the case. But we want to keep we want to keep twisting things, and that's what I always push back on. And with all that said, this is where where I'm consistent. I didn't call out, but I tried to add context around like a Sean McVay. I'll take Sean McVay over Nick Sirianni in a heartbeat. Snorts. Like, it won't even be a question. It won't even up if you bring old man Andy Reid. You're like, all right, Andy Reid's going to retire, but you got him for another like 3 years. Is like, great. Bring in Andy. Let's go. Do it in a second. Shanahan. Yep, Shanahan's never won a Super Bowl. Don't care. I believe he's a better coach. Let's go. That's how I am. Multiple things can be true at the same time. But the fact that you want to have this conversation around Sirianni, bro, there should be a lot more of a serious conversation around, say, Kevin Unell. Let's be serious here. There should be a more serious conversation around Shanahan at this point. How about Sean McVay saying, you had this awesome roster. You had this team that everyone believed was the best team in the NFL week after week after week, and you fell short. Why? You paid $20 million for Devontae. You couldn't have used that money on defense or something to have more depth for special teams. You're Sean McVay. You're an Matthew Stafford. Do you need another Devontae? Could you have used that money somewhere else? Like, where's the conversation around that? I want to know, where is the conversation around the Rams coming up short? People week after week after week. You have the MVP, Matthew Stafford. You have Sean McVay, who's the greatest coach in the history of the world outside of Andy Reid and Bill Bitch. And you did not win the Super Bowl this year. Let's have that conversation. You came up, you have the MVP, you came up short. Why? Well, it wasn't his side of the ball. It was the O-line, it was the defense. It was this. He's the head coach. He's the decision maker. You were so close last year. This year was supposed to be different, and it wasn't. You didn't win. Let's have that conversation. Let's figure out why. Where did it go wrong? I'd love to know. Let's have it. You have Matthew Stafford, all-time great Puka, Devontae Adams. What are we doing here? And let's have that same conversation that we had about the Eagles last year. How lucky they were to come away with some of those wins. All right? Well, the Rams were really lucky to beat the Carolina Panthers. They were really lucky to beat the Chicago Bears, but they were unlucky when they lost to the Seattle Seahawks. How about Harbaugh and the Chargers? Team that I defend and praise non-stop. Why can't you get them to play better? Yeah, that offensive line is rough. I get it, but like, you can't do anything productive offensively. He had to hire Mike McDaniel. Now, I thought Harbaugh was the offensive brains. I thought Harbaugh sets that culture and that toughness. But now he needs to get a superstar offensive coordinator. If Nick Sirianni hired that, they would say, see, he's too ball beholden to his coordinators. Well, it certainly feels like Harbaugh is then. Why don't we have the conversation about Dan Campbell? Let's have the conversation about Dan Campbell. What the Lions do this year. They didn't even make the playoffs. The Eagles did. Lions had an awesome roster. Quarterback who I guess is better than Jalen Hurts. They didn't win. The run game was better. They didn't win. Let's have a conversation about Dan Campbell. I love it. Let's do it. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Philadelphia Eagles, Nick Sirianni being on the hot seat? Which, to be clear, I think he is on the hot seat because it's Philadelphia and he should be on the hot seat. And quite frankly, if the offensive coordinator who they hire, if he transforms this offense and this offense looks great and you're like, wow, this offense is awesome, then yeah, you have a serious conversation about saying we're moving on from Sirianni and we're elevating this guy to be the head coach, because we are not letting another great coach leave. I'm totally all on the table for that. Like I keep saying, multiple things could be right. Multiple things can be true at the same time. So let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get to some discussions, let's get to some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help visibility in the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.